Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here virtually. Unfortunately, some winter weather impacted my travel plans, and I am unable to be there in person with you today. So I'm so sorry to miss out on being there in person, but I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to share this presentation with you virtually over video. Just to introduce myself, my name is Courtney. I am with Syre. I started on the Syre team last year in 2024. I joined shortly after our public launch in March. I'm with the commercial team at Syre. My background is in textiles. So I studied textile engineering at NC State and started off my career in some technical roles, developing technical textiles for a lot of military and aerospace markets. I'm very happy to be on the sustainability side of the business now, and I'm looking forward to talking to you today about the current state of the textile industry, specifically with polyester and circularity, and also share a little information about Syre and what we are doing. So I will share a presentation with you. Yes, so as I mentioned, I'll just give some background on the current state of the textile industry in terms of circularity, specifically with polyester, and then go into some more detail about Syre and what we're doing in this space. So I have a video from Syre to start this out.
Textiles are a part of our everyday life. But the way we produce and consume them must change. Vast amounts of textiles go to waste every single day. It's a growing global challenge. The textile industry accounts for up to 10% of the global CO2e emissions. That's why we have founded Syre. Syre marks the start of the great textile shift. We want to decarbonize and de-waste textiles, starting with the world's biggest fiber, polyester. We are implementing textile-to-textile recycling, putting textile waste to use over and over again. Our vision is simply a world where every textile is used again and again and sees a new day. But what really sets us apart is our groundbreaking technology that lets us turn end-of-life textiles into new polyester.
All right. So that helps set the stage for what we're talking about today and why Syre has chosen to start with polyester specifically. So we see polyester as being one of the biggest challenges in the textile industry currently. One of these reasons is that polyester is the most widely used textile fiber in the world. So today we're producing over 70 million tons of polyester per year, but we're projecting that this is only going to increase. So by 2032, we predict that there will be over 90 million tons of polyester produced each year. At the same time, polyester is a huge emitter of CO2 emissions. So if you look at an overview of the textile value chain to see where carbon emissions are coming from, 30 to 40% of them are coming just from the production of virgin polyester fiber and yarn. Then we also see a big issue at the other side of the value chain with textile waste. So currently, less than 1% of the global textile fiber market comes from recycled textiles. Most textiles end up either in a landfill or incineration. So we see a big issue on both ends of the supply chain here, and we want to help solve that because we see polyester as being the biggest challenge in the industry currently. So up until now, the solutions for polyester have been either virgin polyester or recycled polyester, which comes from bottle to fiber solutions. Unfortunately, we see some issues with both of these options. So virgin polyester, of course, is produced from crude oil. It has a large amount of carbon emissions associated with that. So for every kilogram of virgin polyester that's produced, there's about 3 kilograms of CO2 emissions associated with that. At the same time, there's a huge waste challenge associated with this. So every year there's over 90 million tons of textile waste, which typically ends up in a landfill or incineration. And so virgin polyester, because it's such a huge fiber, is a huge part of this. And by using crude oil as a feedstock, we are just generating more materials which contribute to the textile waste crisis. Up until now, the best solution that's been available at scale has been recycled polyester from bottle to fiber solutions. But we do see some issues with this. First of all, you're taking bottles out of their natural recycling loop. So instead of being able to circularly recycle bottles into more bottles, we're taking them out of that loop and really giving them one extra lap as a textile before it still ends up in a landfill or incineration. Unfortunately, there's also a high amount of CO2 emissions associated with bottle to fiber solutions as well. So for every 1 kilogram of bottle to fiber recycled polyester that you produce, there's about 2 kilograms of CO2 emissions associated with that as well. So because of this, we see circular polyester as being really the only truly sustainable, high quality alternative to virgin polyester and bottle to fiber recycled polyester. So circular polyester uses textiles as its feedstock. So it's truly a circular solution, and it helps divert textile waste from landfills or incineration and really contributes to helping solve the textile waste crisis. There's also some big positives in decarbonization potential. So there's up to 85% decarbonization potential compared to virgin polyester. But circular polyester also offers lower CO2 emissions than recycled bottle to fiber options as well. So we see this as being a really sustainable solution, both in solving the waste crisis and also reducing carbon emissions for polyester production. At the same time, there's been a lot of legislations that has been passed or is likely to be passed that is going to actually require the use of circularity and circular products. So typically we look to what Europe is doing in this space as they're sort of the first ones to pass legislation towards sustainability, and we expect the United States to follow in the years to come. So we're already seeing this happen right now. Europe has been passing some regulations which are requiring circularity. They are going to be preventing brands from making claims that bottled to fiber solutions are actually recycled. Instead, it will have to be textile to textile in order to qualify as being recycled. And there are some EPR bills or extended producer responsibility bills that are being passed, which will cause fines and fees associated with not recycling textile waste. We're already seeing something similar happen in the United States with legislation that's being passed in California, which will also be an EPR bill, so extended producer responsibility, which will hold clothing manufacturers responsible and impose fines and fees for not recycling textile waste. Some positive news is lots of brands and companies out there have been making some very ambitious targets and goals for the coming years in terms of using certain percentages of recycled polyester, even using circular polyester or circular materials, reducing carbon emissions. We're seeing lots of positive goals being passed, especially for new 2030 targets. Unfortunately, the bad news is that most of the people on this slide and most brands in general will not actually be able to meet the targets that they are setting. So in order for all of these brands to be able to meet their targets for circularity and using circular materials, we predict that there will be a need for 14 million metric tons of circular polyester by 2030. But if we look at textile to textile recycling companies and stated ambitions that have been made, we predict that by that year, there will be about 2 to 4 million metric tons of circular polyester available, which leaves us with a huge supply gap of 10 to 12 million metric tons of circular polyester. So this is only a few years away, 2030. We're predicting there's going to be a really large gap in the industry between what's needed and what's actually available for brands to use. So I know I've shared some challenges and maybe some discouraging news, but there is good news. There are companies out there like Syre that are focusing on textile to textile technology and scaling this technology up for companies and brands to utilize. So there are solutions coming available. Here I'll give you some more information about Syre, what we are doing specifically, and some of our plans for scale and in the future. So Syre is a textile impact company. Our goal is to decarbonize and de-waste the textile industry, which we are doing through textile to textile recycling, specifically starting with polyester. And what sets us apart from some others in this space is we have some pretty ambitious plans to do this at hyperscale. So I'll get into what hyperscale actually means later on in the presentation, but essentially we want to scale really big and really fast. So we've got some pretty ambitious plans for the years to come. Some background on how Syre was founded. We are a joint venture between H&M Group and Vargas. H&M was looking for a circular polyester solution for their supply chain, but they didn't see anything available at the scale that they actually needed. So they decided to found a company. So they partnered with Vargas. Vargas is a venture capital company based out of Sweden with extensive experience in scaling impact companies. So they've built companies in the steel production space or in the production of batteries for electric vehicles. And this is their first foray into the textile industry. But what they did is they built a business case around Syre, around a textile to textile recycling company. And then they spent over a year evaluating all the different technologies that were out there to find the technology that made the most sense for the business case and the most sense for scaling. And that's how Syre has the technology that they have today. H&M Group is our foundational customer, so they've made a historically large offtake agreement with Syre, which will cover a significant portion of their recycled polyester needs for 7 years, worth 600 million US dollars. So we're very excited to have them as our foundational customer. This past year in 2024, we also closed our Series A of funding with $100 million. We have backing from companies like TPG Rise Climate, Volvo, IMAS, who's the venture capital arm of IKEA. We're very happy to have the backing of all of these companies as we're working towards our ambitious plans for scale in the next few years. All right, so now I'll get into a little bit of the Syre solution and what we're doing. So I've mentioned already that current supply chains are very linear. We're starting with either crude oil or a bottle and producing something that ultimately is going to end up in a landfill or incineration. But what Syre wants to do is take this linear supply chain and turn it into something that's circular. So we want the Syre solution to be something that is plug and play within existing supply chains, causing minimal disruption, creating a high quality, virgin quality product that can easily be used in your products and supply chains currently, but just help make that more circular and a continuous process there. So here's some detail about the actual Syre solution and the technology that we're using. So I mentioned that we're using textile to textile recycling. Specifically, we're using chemical recycling, and our process is a continuous glycolysis process. So to start, we are starting off with a textile input. It's very important to us that our input is 100% textile. So it can come from a variety of different sources. It can be post-consumer waste. It can be pre-consumer waste that can't be reused or repaired or resold, or it can be post-industrial waste. It's just very important that it's 100% textile. We won't be using other packaging plastics or plastic alternatives there. 100% textile feedstock for us. That textile feedstock will go into a pre-processing stage where all of those garments will be shredded. We'll remove any trims, zippers, buttons, anything that needs to be removed prior to processing. And then it will go into our actual recycling process. So it will start with depolymerization. We'll be breaking all of that material down to BHET monomer, so a building block of polyester, and then it will be repolymerized back into virgin quality polyester. Because we're breaking all of those materials back down to the initial monomer, we're able to achieve really high quality, virgin quality polyester because we're rebuilding it from its initial building blocks. And we're able to take that to PET chip or filament yarn or staple fiber, whatever makes the most sense for a company supply chain. And just some things to highlight about our process here. So I mentioned something that's unique about Syre. Typically, companies like this are founded by some researchers who have an idea and a technology, and they build a business around it. Syre was the opposite. So we started with the business and then found the best technology for the business. So after that big technology search that H&M and Vargas did, they found our current technology, which was chosen because it's a really simple and efficient process. It's, as I mentioned, it's a continuous glycolysis process. Because it's continuous, it's very low energy usage. So once we get our machine up to temperature, it's ready to go. We don't need to waste a lot of energy continually heating it up and cooling it down. So we're very low energy usage. We're also very low chemical usage. We recover all of we use ethylene glycol in our process. We recover all of the chemicals and are able to reuse them with no water pollution in our process. So we're very happy with this technology and think it works really well for scaling up. So I mentioned before hyperscale. So here I will get into some of Syre's plans and ambitions, both what we've done in the last couple of years and what we plan to do in the years to come. So as I've mentioned, in 2021 and 2022, that's when the business case was started. That's when we did that technology search and found the technology that we have currently. So the technology that Syre acquired was Premier Plastics, a company based out of North Carolina, if anyone is familiar with them. Now they are Syre. Syre was officially founded in 2023, and we launched publicly in March of 2024. Also in 2024, this past year, we announced our first blueprint plant. So our first blueprint plant, we're very happy to say that it will be located in North Carolina with an annual capacity of up to 10,000 metric tons of circular polyester per year. It is under construction now and is going to be operational in the second half of 2025. At the same time, we are working towards scaling up our commercial plants. Our first very large commercial plant, so it will have a capacity of up to 250,000 metric tons of circular polyester per year. It's planned to be located in Vietnam, and it will be in construction in 2028. We are going to continue to scale with additional commercial plants in that same range of 150 to 250,000 metric tons around the world, with a goal of producing 3 million metric tons of circular polyester per year in 2032. And here's a visual of the information I just shared, so to show you where we are and where we're going. So right now, Syre has an R&D facility in Mebane, North Carolina. So we are this very small dot in North Carolina right now. We have a pilot line which can do small scale sampling. The pilot line does the depolymerization portion of our process. Later this year, our dot will grow a little bit bigger still in North Carolina with our blueprint plant. So we'll increase our capacity 10,000 metric tons in North Carolina, and that process will take all the way from our pre-processing, depolymerization, polymerization to some lab scale yarn spinning as well. And then here our dots will grow much bigger, 2028 to 2032 as we scale up with our commercial plants. Our first commercial plant is planned for Vietnam with a 250,000 metric ton capacity, but we'll continue scaling in Asia, Europe, and the Americas, again with that goal of producing 3 million metric tons of circular polyester per year in 2032. And here's our announcement for our blueprint plant. So we're very excited to have this manufacturing facility in North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, so it's always exciting to me to have something like this in North Carolina. We're planning on it being operational in the second half of 2025, again with an annual capacity of 10,000 metric tons. Here we're using an existing polyester polymerization facility, which was recently closed. We'll be using all of that polyester polymerization equipment that's there, and we will be adding in our depolymerization, the recycling portion of the process, to have our full process in-house at this location. We're also partnering with Solenis, so they're a leading global supplier of high-quality polyester and are experts in polyester polymerization. So we're very excited to have their expertise for the polymerization portion of our process here in North Carolina. But this will be a great stepping stone for us as we go from our small R&D line to our giant commercial facility in Vietnam. We're very happy to be scaling up to 10,000 metric tons to get our practice in scaling before we go much larger to our next commercial plant. So I've mentioned that we are planning on scaling in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Something else I'd like to touch on is the feedstock that we're using in our process. So we have feedstock teams literally located around the world that are currently working on securing access to textile waste in each of the regions that we're planning on scaling. This waste can be post-consumer waste. It can be pre-consumer waste that's not able to be repaired, reused, resold, or it can be post-industrial waste. Ultimately, our goal as a company is to help solve the textile waste crisis and divert waste from landfill or incineration globally, but we want to also focus on closing the loop in each region that we're scaling. So we don't want to be a sustainability company that's shipping waste back and forth around the world over and over. So we want to really focus on establishing those regional loops so the waste is coming from the regions that we're producing in, and we're keeping things as regional as possible. Of course, this will take some time to implement and scale up to, but ultimately this is our goal as we plan on using textile waste as our feedstock and diverting it from landfills and incinerations around the world. So on the other side of things, I am on the commercial team at Syre, and what we are doing currently is working with potential commercial partners to secure their access to circular polyester now for when our commercial plants become available. We've been focusing primarily on apparel, home interior, and automotive companies, as these are all companies that use a very large amount of polyester and also are focused on sustainability and using recycled and circular materials in the years to come. And so what we've been doing with them is establishing why they should use circular polyester, why they should partner with Syre, and then why they should commit now. So these are the main questions that we get from companies that are considering partnering with Syre to secure access to circular polyester. We've touched on some of this already, but why circular polyester? We see circular polyester as being really the only true sustainable alternative to virgin or current solutions for recycled polyester. We see a huge decarbonization potential here. So I mentioned that we can have up to 85% reduction in CO2 emissions compared to virgin polyester based on the screening LCAs that we've done so far. And we see this as being a solution to the textile waste crisis. So we are using textile waste as our feedstock. We can partner with companies specifically to use their textile waste and help them have a truly circular solution in their supply chain. Um, the next question is why Syre? So there's lots of companies in this space working towards textile to textile recycling and trying to have a solution that's available at scale. Personally, I'm a little biased. I feel that Syre is the best option. But the reason why we would say why Syre is because we're really taking supply chains from being linear to circular, and we want it to be a really plug and play solution. So we want to produce a virgin quality polyester that can fit into your existing supply chain with minimal impact to supply partners or other processes that you have in your process. And we're very focused on superior sustainability. So we've done a screening LCA. We're very focused on keeping decarbonization as one of our major priorities, really reducing CO2 emissions as much as possible and establishing those regional value chains to utilize waste in the most sustainable way possible. And then one of the biggest questions we get is why now? So polyester specifically is a commodity product that people are not used to purchasing in advance or securing access to because it's something that has always been available and is very easy to purchase. But we're seeing a change in the way people are doing business and having to plan towards future use of polyester, specifically circular polyester, because of that supply gap that I mentioned earlier. So we're predicting that by 2030, there's going to be a 10 to 12 million metric ton supply gap between what's needed and what's available. And so by committing now to using circular polyester, you are securing your access to something that could be scarce in years to come, and you're also securing it at pricing that makes much more economic sense now. We predict that as that supply gap becomes more and more real, of course, price will be driven up as well. Again, there's also regulations coming that are requiring the use of circular materials. So we're encouraging brands to go ahead and commit to circular materials now and be ahead of those regulations and that really help future-proof your business. So we see that the great textile shift starts now. I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone in more detail who's interested in being a part of the great textile shift with us and taking steps towards circular polyester. I'm very sorry that I'm not there in person to answer your questions. I'm sure you have some great questions that I would love to answer and talk to you more about. Please feel free to reach out to me. I've put my email address on here, and I'm sure Devin can share it with you as well. But I'd be happy to connect with anyone who's interested in learning more about Syre, textile to textile recycling in general. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity. Wish I could be there, but look forward to seeing everyone in the future.